Just yesterday, I was talking to a friend who recently completed Raja Yoga series. He had a certain question. He asked, how can I believe? How can I believe God? How can I believe this teaching, the path? How can I believe this meditation is working? How do I know this is true? You believe certain things not just because the scriptures say so, not just because scientists proves with data that meditation works. What is your experience? The words in the scriptures or the books or the data in scientific experiments, they give us a glimpse of truth, but they are not showing the full truth, the complete truth. We must develop intuition to see the truth behind these words and these numbers. With intuition, we are able to relate or connect these words to our own experience, and then, only then, true understanding comes. In the same chapter I just read from this book, there's a story of carrot juice. One day, Yoganandaji had guests coming over, and he wanted to serve carrot juice, which was being made in the community at that time. He asked one of his disciples to fetch some juice. So this disciple went, but only to find that there is only a very small amount left. So he told Yoganandaji, Master, the situation. And Master says, well, never mind, pour what you have. So this disciple thought, okay, let me pour just a little bit so that everyone will get at least a sip. Then Master says, no, fill the glass. Okay, the disciple thinks, what to do? But since Master said so, it's not for me to question. So he believed. He poured and filled the first glass. He filled the second glass. He filled the third glass. He filled all the glasses. And then still, there was carrot juice in the pitcher that he had. Master didn't say anything, and guests had no idea what it was, what happened. They just enjoyed the juice. It's a miracle. And do you think, this disciple is so lucky to witness such a miracle? If you think about it, isn't this what's happening in our life too? Isn't it what Guru does? He's doing in our life too? The pain, suffering, or the difficult tests come from time to time. And when it comes, it seems impossible to overcome. And initially, our mind wanders here and there, what to do, where is the answer? Let me analyze the situation. Let me, talk to this people, that people. But when our minds are, running around seeking the answers, actually nothing happens. Then what do? As devotees, as disciples, we probably pray to God, to the Guru. And we say, okay, I don't know the answer. I don't know how to figure this out. But I know you will show me the way. Whatever you give me, I know that you're giving this to me because you think this is best for my spiritual growth. And it's not a blind belief. It comes from our own inner experience with God. We trust God and Guru. Just like this disciple who kept pouring carrot juice into the glasses, we follow, we believe there's a reason behind what's happening, and God and Guru is always on our side. When we open ourselves like that, then they'll take charge of our lives. And answer comes in the form of maybe clarity, understanding, or some unexpected help. Things get sorted out in an unexpected or almost miraculous way. I'm sure many of you have that experience. Last summer, I went through some health challenge. Initially, when it started, I thought, okay, let's not identify with the body. I'll just meditate more, serve more, study more, or whatever. I'll do what I can do. It carried me, but not to the extent to solve the problem. And rather, it got worse. And at one point, my body was really feeling bad, and I felt really discouraged, felt almost abandoned. I complained to Master, where are you? Why you are not helping me? I cried, exhausted, fell asleep one night. And next morning I woke up, maybe because I was so exhausted the previous night. My mind was empty. I just sat for meditation. And in that meditation, in that complete stillness, I suddenly knew that Master is also in that pain. He wasn't somewhere else abandoning me, but he was always there. Whenever I felt the pain, he was right there in the middle of the pain, just lovingly waiting for me to notice that he is there. Till that time, there's a chant by Swamiji, through all trials. Through all trials, we sing thy name. Joy in thee is life's sole aim. Till then, I understood the meaning, and I knew that Swamiji lived like that, but it didn't come to my heart. I couldn't really feel it as my truth until that day. But then I realized that pain was not painful anymore, and I even felt joy whenever the pain comes back, because it was the assurance of his presence, his love. So like that, when our mind becomes very calm, when we forget what we need to do or what we can do, when our mind simply gets fixed on God and Guru, we know what is truth. I'll just end with one more point. Many of you might know there's a drama series of Jesus Christ's life. It's called The Chosen. It's a very well-made drama, so I highly recommend it. But when I was thinking about this topic of the need for single-mindedness, I was reminded of one of the scenes from that drama. There was a scene where Jesus comes to a paralytic and he heals this paralytic. But when he comes, he asks this paralytic, who has been there for many, many decades, he asks, "Do you want to get healed?" And this paralytic is confused, like, "Yeah, but then I have this difficulty, no one is here to help me." He goes on, and then Jesus says, "Look at me. You need only me." And the paralytic looks into his eyes, and then he's healed. That is what God and Guru are asking of us. We tend to say, "Oh wait, I have to figure this out, let me fix this thing." But actually, what they want us to do is to look at Him. Just fix our gaze on Him. Fix our minds on God alone. Open our hearts completely to Him, and He'll take care of everything. Thank you.
Such a sweet sharing, and also that story, very touching at the end, about Christ and how He healed that man just by that magnetism of His love. And we have like Chika mentioned, a very interesting topic today, the need for single-mindedness. And what is the opposite of single-mindedness? Perhaps double-mindedness. You're having your mind be in different directions. And often, I think especially at the beginning of the spiritual path, but really it could be at other points also, as you're going along your journey, sometimes you feel, really, what is this talk about being single-minded? Just absolutely with all body, mind and soul pursuing the path. Why can't I, yes, I'll meditate, but why can't I also, let's say just go and indulge in my desires? And why can't I, yes, I'll think of God a little bit, but why can't I, also just think of so many other things in my life? It reminds me of a devotee, this brother and sister, and the sister, this was early on in her years when she was on the path. And as we often do, there is a struggle involved, especially in the beginning. And she one day, looked at her brother and she said, "Bhaiya, I think I was better off not being on the spiritual path." She said, "At least I didn't know that this whole reality existed, Just saying, I was happy in my ignorance, which is, of course, it's not a solution. But really, the need for single-mindedness. And why do we need to be single-minded? Why can't we have a compromise? Why can't we, yes, love God, but why can't we, just also enjoy the world in a worldly sense? And, I'm reminded of a story from the Gita, or an episode from the Bhagavad Gita. And we know, Duryodhana, the character in the Gita, and, we have the Pandavas. And it's at this point in the story where, the Pandavas, they come back and it is their right, it's their birthright to rule the kingdom. But what does Duryodhana say? He refuses, and he says, basically he says, I won't give them as much land as can be covered by a piece of straw, which is to say, he was saying, I'm not going to give them anything, not an inch of land. And really, like I said, it was the birthright of the Pandavas to rule. The people of the country wanted it. And that is where the battle developed, you see. And really, the Pandavas would have been very happy just with a little kingdom. They maybe didn't even want, they had no desire. They would have been happy with a little kingdom to rule over it. But no, that was not to be. And why? There is a very deep symbology just for this one episode which Paramhansa Yogananda gave. And he said that Duryodhana represents desire within ourselves. He's called in the Gita King Material Desire. And basically what is happening here is that we think that we would be happy with just a little bit of time to meditate that part of our mind, but no, that is not possible, because Duryodhana, the desires that are within us, they say, I'm not going to give you as much land, which is to say as much space in the heart. Desires rest in the heart, as can be covered by a piece of straw, which is to say, Duryodhana is saying, I don't want you to think of God. I don't want you to think of, to have devotion. And Yogananda said that's where the battle develops, because that is where we have to struggle. That is why we have to struggle for our time to meditate. That is why we have to fight to claim that thought of devotion, to claim that thought of God. And that is why this battle goes on until finally it's a fight to the finish. There is no other way. Duryodhana has to go, but until we reach that point, you have to fight. And that is the reason, that you cannot have your feet in both boats. One, because, you won't be satisfied with anything less than God. Doesn't matter whether, you're a monk or you're married, but if you're on the path, in your heart of hearts, if the divine, if the beloved is not there, then really, one, we won't be satisfied. And two, if we're not single-minded, if we're not single-hearted, we won't get there. It's as simple as that. Because like I said, there is a very strong power, the power of Duryodhana within us, who refuses to budge, who's trying always to take our mind off from that single purpose. And so how do we win this battle? I mean, it seems like a very dire situation we are in. And if we understand that our heart and our mind, the topic is the need for single-mindedness, but we might as well add the need for single-mindedness and single-heartedness. And the mind and the heart, we have to work with them. And think really, because this is how it is, think of the mind and think of the heart as two children, maybe your children. And both of them are siblings, brother and sister. The heart is the sister and she's the elder one. And the mind is the brother and he's the younger one. Now, if they both are giving you trouble, if they are naughty children, then rather than, just getting upset and trying to, correct both, a wise parent knows. What do they know? The secret of working with children, which is that, children learn by imitation. They don't learn when you shout at them often or you instruct them, but they watch, and if some other child does something, it's the easiest thing for a child to watch an adult, and just repeat the action. They don't know why they're doing it, because that is how they're, let's say, wired. And so if a wise parent, if you have those two children on your hands, you would do well to work with the elder one. Why? Because, the elder one perhaps has more The younger one, especially the boy, looks up to the sister. And often this is also true in life. If there's an elder sister, she can, make the younger boy, the younger brother, follow what she's saying. But there is a truth to this. You will succeed even in that situation if you just focus on the elder sister, if you discipline her, if you take her, nudge her in the right direction, half your job is done. In fact, maybe all of your job is done, because, she can then work with the brother. But this is a spiritual principle also. On our path, we have this saying, reason follows feeling, isn't it? Reason follows feeling. Mind follows the heart. And if you want to be single-minded, if you want, our minds are so hard to bring under our control. You set your intention and off goes the mind. Say, okay, I'm going to meditate every day now, and suddenly all these things come up and you've lost that intention. And on it goes, the temptations and the distractions and all the things that pull us away. And at the root of that is your mind and your heart. And if you can just do one job, if you can give your energy to your heart, rather than trying to fight the mind, and if you can awaken, this quality we've been talking about, devotion, because you cannot fight Duryodhana, in hand-to-hand combat. How do you fight your desires? It's not possible. They multiply. You start thinking about them more. The only way to fight this battle is what we were saying, devotion. That one single desire that's going to take us out of all desires. And that is why, all spiritual paths, Yogananda ji, all saints, emphasize this quality of the heart so much, that love God, develop that personal, deep, intimate relationship with God in whatever way you worship Him, her. Because when you do, then it is no struggle to convince your mind. Reason follows feeling. When you want something very badly, very, from your heart, whether it's some food or some snack or, whether it's whatever it might be, there is no force in the universe that can stop you, because the heart has that energy. It's a power center. And when you want something like that, the mind becomes your slave. The mind cannot rebel because the heart has energy in it, you see. So keep this in mind, friends, that in our battle against delusion, in our intention to be single-minded, work on being single-hearted. Don't let your heart be full of so many things that you forget the most important thing, which is love, which is devotion for God. Swami Kriyananda wrote a song, Through Many Lives. It's a beautiful song, which captures some of what Chika was saying, and this desire of our souls to merge back into God. And some of the verses, he says, through many lives I've drunk the cup of laughter. No man could tell the pleasures I have known. Through many lives I've drunk the cup of sorrow. No man could tell the tears I have shed. And finally he says, which is to say, lifetime after lifetime, so many cups of pleasure and pain and sorrow, we've all tasted those. But finally he says, through many lives, I sought your cup of sweetness. That all through that I was looking for that only one cup of sweetness which would satisfy me, but not finding that cup because I did not turn towards you. I thirsted evermore. I was always thirsty, and I kept through many lives looking for you. So remind yourself, when you go through life, and I think our life experience tells us, if we introspect, if we have some discrimination about these things. But the most important thing, devotion, that love, that longing of the heart, as we were reading in this affirmation, that can really be your raft across the ocean of delusion. I want to end, by sharing about a disciple of Yogananda ji, who was a very simple man. His name was Horace, and he was spastic, and he had difficulties with his body. And he did not serve in any great way. He didn't give classes. He had no outward role. But this fellow, he would be in Yogananda ji's ashram, and when other monks would teach, he would, because he had very much difficulty in even moving, coordinating his body, in the church where the congregation was sitting, he would go from chair to chair, with the collection basket, where people put their donations. And he probably looked a sorry picture. That's all he could sometimes just do. But one time, the disciples were with Yogananda ji, and they were talking about the spiritual growth of different disciples there at that time. And Yogananda ji just said, Horace is very close, which is to say that he's very close to liberation, spiritual freedom. He said, Horace is very close. And he said, Divine Mother is pleased with his devotion. And the other disciples, they just couldn't reconcile this image of Horace being as a spiritual giant, and they asked him, Master, but it must be a very simple kind of devotion, right? I mean, if it's pleasing to God. And Master said, that is the kind God likes. And he quoted Christ's words, God does not reveal himself unto the prudent and the wise, but unto babes. Which is to say, you have to, you can't conquer God with your intellect, but with your love. And when you call with love to the Mother of the universe, to the Guru, they cannot but leave everything and come to you. So being single-minded through being single-hearted in our love, in our devotion, in our intention, in our purpose. So I hope we can practice some of these things in our life.